So tell me what you found out.
All right, so I went into kind of a crazy rabbit hole with this one. We're gonna talk about Argentina. I don't really know anything about Argentina except for what I learned in the last 2 weeks, and that they've got Messi. This is actually important because
Messi is
Argentina right
important.
now, you see the circle.
I see the circles.
Argentina is Messi,
Oh, I see what you did there.
right? Right, you got it. Okay.
Oh wow,
So
wow.
so we're gonna start with COVID. So like everywhere else, COVID forced the Argentinian government to spend a bunch of money because everyone's out of jobs. The problem is that Argentina was kind of already in a really tough spot financially before lockdowns. So the only way for them to like give money out to poor people or people who lost their jobs and stuff was to just spend way more, like way more. So if you see this graph, this is around COVID. This looks this looks like a small gain from here to here, but this is actually like a doubling of the money supply between 2020 and 2021. And then as you'll see, this thing just goes to the freaking moon. Um
It's exponential. Yeah.
yeah. So so the government right now at this point is headed by this guy called Alberto Fernandez. And he was like, oh crap, everyone's getting pissed that the prices are going up because obviously when you double the money supply, inflation's going to kind of start going crazy. So they're like, hold up, everyone's getting pissed. So what if we just freeze prices and then they'll never go up?
Can you just be like, oh, one
Yeah.
dollar?
Yeah, I mean, he's so basically they just start implementing this plan that just decides that there's a bunch of important goods that won't increase in price. So this will be like groceries. They do subsidies on energy prices, so like gasoline, rent. So like nothing's going up. Everything's just staying the same.
Econ 101 tells me that there'll be some problems from that.
Yeah. So I like literally exactly. So they they start with the price controls and then they also under the same kind of idea they ban exports
Just
on
export like all exports.
not all exports but like for important stuff that they're starting to run out of like beef, just certain important goods that they want to keep the supply up because like if there's not enough of beef, prices are going to keep going up. So this sounds all great. How does it turn out? I mean, you said it, Econ 101. Price controls and bans on exports without increasing supply at all will literally just lead to shortages in black markets. That's exactly what happens. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to mention this guy, but we'll talk about him later. Exactly like you said, blackout, power outage, and shortages. So food prices, if the food prices are lower than the suppliers can buy them for, they're just not going to buy them. And then if you stop increasing utility prices, they're not going to invest in the grid, and then blackouts. One of the third things that Fernandez does is something called, correct me Spanish speakers, el quepo cambario, which is a price control on pesos. You can't sell all of your pesos for dollars.
Why would anyone want to sell pesos?
Well, okay, imagine if you're getting your paycheck, suddenly the next paycheck you can afford 10% less because at this point like inflation is it's not quite at 211% yet right around COVID, but it's like 5 to 10% a month. If you're seeing your paycheck get you less and less far and you're just assuming it's going to get more worthless over time, then you sell it for dollars or gold or Bitcoin. But the problem is that the government only has so much dollars, and if everybody wants to sell their pesos, they're not going to have any dollars left.
So Argentina has pesos.
Yeah, so that's their currency. Currency is
Okay,
pesos,
but
and
like, why would they exchange for dollars if they they can't buy their goods in dollars?
this is more for savers. Like people who are saving money just can't save in pesos because it's going to be worth less and less every.
So you transfer your money into an alternate currency that does retain its value, and then let's say you do need to transfer it back to pesos, like that. Just converting it between back and forth is going to be better than just letting your pesos sit and depreciate.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at this graph again. Like, if your inflation is going up by 10%, there's no way you would ever hold the money for longer than like just to buy stuff.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So basically, by now, people have lost complete faith in the peso as a store of value. This leads to what's called a dual exchange rate. So because you can only exchange a certain amount officially, which is this red line, you're just going to go to like the back store of a newspaper stand or to a one of these places where you just exchange your money kind of like in the black market, so under the table. Because people are so desperate to get rid of all of their pesos, there's this gap because you're willing to get rid of your pesos for less and less dollars. This blue chip swap rate is basically the underground black market rate. If you're going to exchange your dollars at the newspaper stand, you're going to do it for this less rate once you run out of this maximum that you can sell.
I got you. Yeah. So exactly what you were saying. Black market.
Yeah. And so things are basically just getting worse and worse. Like at this point, the government's like they're losing all of their dollar reserves because everyone wants to get rid of their pesos because it just keeps becoming more and more worthless. And so they can't pay off any of their debts. And so they have to default for the third time in 10 years. They have to like tell
Oh,
international investors like, yeah, we can't pay this.
that's messy.
Not only are they wildly increasing the money supply, like the deficit is 5 to 8% every year. And if they keep spending money that they don't have, they're just never going to be able to pay back their dollar debt.
Mm.
So when the government is making terrible decisions, what do you think voters do?
Get them out of there.
They
Or they
look for the loudest and craziest outsider they can possibly find. And so in comes this man called Javier Milei. There are many ways to describe Milei. Libertarian economist. I think he was like an economist and then he became a TV pundit for like a right-wing TV pundit. And now he calls himself an anarcho-capitalist. His campaign is basically running on the government is in the way of everything. Politicians are corrupt. We need to stop spending, no more money printing, deregulate everything, let the free market do whatever it wants. And like the state has been in the way of the people for too long. And so this kind of anti-establishment campaign was super popular. I think he got maybe one of the largest votes in the popular election in decades with 55%.
To be fair, it sounds like the established government has failed the people. You know,
Yeah, I mean you
people.
can't really complain. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that all of his social and immigration ideas are that good, but if you're talking about like helping the average person paycheck to paycheck like survive, the the government has been really bad. They're just spending money they don't have, inflating away the currency, and there's no growth and there's no like the outlook is just really terrible. Like at this point, I think when during his campaign, inflation's at like 260%. So like if I have a milk that's $5 at this rate, it's gonna be like, I don't know, 15 in like a year or two. Basically, Malay, elected in a landslide, immediately enacts what's known as the Mega Decreto.
You had me in the first half there.
Yeah. So this is basically drastic cuts to all government spending, infrastructure, energy subsidies. He's firing all of the government workers, school meal funding, unemployment, housing assistance. Everything is just gone. Like we're not paying for that anymore.
Well, it sounds very familiar.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I like to describe him as Trump who actually did what he said he was going to do. It's what they call shock therapy, or that's what he called it. And so, one of as you can see, like government spending, he's elected in December 2023. All of this stuff, like crazy like retirement benefits and pensions going down by 23% in real terms is like insane. Like imagine if you just cut Social Security by a quarter and all the
Wow.
riots that would be in the streets.
I can't even imagine. I mean, so what happened? Were people pissed then? I have
Yeah,
to
so
imagine.
so basically, yeah. So this is kind of what economists call, let's see if I have the yeah. This is what economists call a fiscal adjustment, but what everybody else calls absolutely insanity, because government spending is going down by 35% in the span of 9 months, despite the government having less revenue coming in from lower economic activity and having to pay more in interest payments. 2024, which is the first couple months of Milei's presidency, is the first time in 16 years that the government actually records a budget surplus.
Wow. So I guess he is successful in at least one aspect.
Yeah, at the very least, you can say he did what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to stop spending, and he just takes a literal chainsaw to the whole freaking thing.
Wow.
So while Malay is chainsawing on the fiscal side, the central bank is actually doing something way cooler. Like, it's way subtler, but a lot more impressive, especially considering there's a quote of Malay saying there are four types of central banks: bad, very bad, horribly bad, and the Central Bank of Argentina. So he literally wants to get rid of the central bank, and they're trying their hardest to like salvage whatever is left of this crumbling economy as quickly as they can before riots are in the streets. And keep in mind, this is all like still within the first few months of his presidency. So this isn't like over the course of his term. He's doing this like right away. The first thing they do is they announce that the peso is going to be devalued by over 50% immediately. Like, this graph literally is just, it goes from 300 something pesos for $1 straight to 800 in the span of like days.
Wow.
And so
How do they just devalue a currency?
so it kind of goes back to the dual exchange rate. The like this is the official rate of 350 pesos for $1, but in reality, the black market is paying somewhere around here.
oh, so they got rid of that immediately.
Yeah, their goal
Shock.
is to kind of get rid of the capital controls, because like imagine you're at a concert, you buy concert tickets, venue A is like, we're only going to let 10 people refund their tickets every day. Venue B is like, we're going to let anyone refund a ticket whenever they want. If there's like a storm coming through and you think their concert's going to get canceled, people in venue A are going to be freaking out and all rushing to refund their tickets because there's only 10 spots, and they're worried that if like they won't get a refund if they don't do it quickly. But at B, people might take their time and be a little more thoughtful or slow about it because they understand that they have the flexibility to do it whenever they want. With the peso, if you know that you can only transfer a couple hundred officially, you're going to want to do it right away, because it doesn't portray like confidence in the currency.
I see. Okay.
So this has some crazy implications. First of all, obviously it makes sense that if the currency is half as valuable and you owe a lot of money, then you're going to owe less money if it's less valuable. So the real liabilities of the Argentinian central bank goes way down. They only owe in pesos, and if so pesos are less valuable, then
No, I mean that's one way to get rid of your debts.
yeah, I
Or cut.
mean, it's tried and true in these last couple of years, but the problem is Argentina has dollar denominated debts with the IMF. So that's why they had to default, because no matter how much you devalue the peso, if it doesn't appreciate versus the dollar, then it's not actually going to change anything. So that's why they had to go bust. It kind of counterintuitively, because the currency plummets, obviously the prices of things are going to start going up, right? The reason that this doesn't just completely offset immediately is that Malay stops with the money. Like, the money printers are bye bye. Like, he just stops printing money, and the government stops selling bonds. This is a graph of liquidity in the market. Think of the debt as a bathtub. The fiscal deficit is like the faucet just keeping the bathtub filling up. Once he stops the faucet, there's still a bunch of water sloshing around in this tub. the central bank, by not selling pesos and not printing money, basically starts to drain this tub. Because they devalue the currency, that tub is like even more necessary to be used in transactions because you need more of it when it's less valuable.
Yeah, yeah.
At this point, people go from desperately selling pesos because there are these capital controls and they know that inflation is going to get worse, to desperately needing pesos because there's less pesos going around. This actually leads to the government accumulating some international reserves as people are selling their dollars because they need more pesos to go about their economic activity.
So this makes them able to at least make it easier to repay debts then.
Yeah, so they're able to repay their debts more easily. At the same time, this is like devastating to the economy right now. Poverty goes from 40 something percent to 60 in a matter of months.
Wow.
Real wages, because the currency immediately gets devalued, real wages are down like 25% almost immediately. So everybody is feeling much poorer. You have to give Milei some credit because he said that the first couple months of his presidency it's going to get worse. Rarely get that kind of blunt honesty with politicians, but he was like, "Nope, this is going to get worse, but we need to do this to build up from what's left. Otherwise, we're just going to keep kind of going down this path of inflation, defaults, economic stagnation, and there's no way forward unless you kind of drain this inflation tub. But this can't last forever because if your goal is to lower inflation by crashing the economy, if you keep going, there's going to be no economy left to save. So like people are going to riot and then you're going to be out of office and then it's going to be for nothing.
Yeah, you want people to continue to invest in your country internationally.
Yeah, so there comes this point where like they start to actually lower interest rates, the central bank, because they know that there's less pesos floating around. Inflation's starting to slowly come down, and so they're kind of declaring, yeah, so we're here. We're here. Inflation's coming down a little bit, but it's still like at this point 2024, it's in this 200% range. Like, even though it's not getting worse per se, it's even though prices are only going up by 200% instead of 250, that's still terrible. Oh, okay. So then this last part of what the central bank does is interest rates are in the 30 to 40% range. They announce during this like kind of post economy crashing phase, they're like, we're going to devalue the peso by exactly 2% per month.
Interesting.
People, if they believe the government can do this, which at this point they've proved to the IMF that they are trying to make good changes, and so they got a bunch of kind of like a money injection from the IMF. So they have the money to be able to kind of sustain this slow ramp down of the currency. In dollar terms, like this is really attractive because if interest rates are paying 30 to 40% and the currency is only going down by 2% a month times 12, you're getting a real yield of like 10 to 15% in dollar terms. This kind of starts this virtuous spiral of people, the real yields are really high, and so the currency kind of starts to appreciate, which allows them to accumulate more dollars, which lets people be more confident in the fact that they can sustain this currency band.
I see. Okay.
The real question is, did it work? Is this a path to success for Argentina, or is this just like so many politicians in the past have tried to stop spending money, but then it requires this short-term pain. So
Yeah,
the individual person who's seeing that tens of thousands of government workers get fired and their pensions are less valuable, they're not getting housing assistance or unemployment, like this sucks. But the economy as a whole, this is like a trough to grow from. This is almost like if a overweight person suddenly decides to do like a 1-day fast. Gonna probably lose weight over that 1 day. It doesn't mean anything unless you can kind of commit to it for a long term, because it's really easy for the next president to just start spending more and then this problem just kind of comes back and nothing changed. So basically I feel like it's all about expectations. Like, Milei convinced everyone that he was going to stop spending, and then he did it, and then he said that he was going to keep doing it. And so people are like, oh, so maybe they will stop printing so many pesos because they don't need to fund this deficit. And so then people are more likely to be interested in peso bonds because they don't think it's going to get devalued. And then suddenly the currency is worth more. And then inflation goes down. And now people are like, oh, I can hold my pesos now for longer because I can be certain that it might, I can be more certain at least that it won't crash in value again like it had been for the last couple of years. Even though Malay's like long-term goal is currency competition, so like allow the US dollar to be used in more transactions so that the government can't just keep printing pesos, because then people just sell their pesos and then it'll crash the currency and then they'll be in this problem again. So like it's almost like a fire under the central bank and the government's butt to like keep being smart with their money. Otherwise, they'll just switch to dollars. So Milei wants the people to be more easily able to switch to dollars.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be some consequences for that, though. If no one, still people don't want to have their own money. Like you want to inspire confidence in your own currency and have not enough inflation where you can, I don't know. Well, I mean, if
Allowing
everyone is rushing to convert their pesos into dollars, I feel like that's not inspiring a lot of confidence in the system of Argentina. I guess it's fine if people want to convert it to dollars for, I don't know, whatever travel usage or whatever. But if they're using the dollar to store their money into without any other need for it,
Yeah, I mean, okay. That's a good point. Before, they were almost forcing the peso on people. Dollars weren't really allowed in most transactions. You weren't, like, it wasn't easy to have a bank account in dollars. Like, everything was supposed to be with pesos, and it was kind of like forced on you. That kind of scares people because now Argentina can do, like, the government can do whatever they want with this currency because they know people have to use it. If currency competition is in play, once Milei did his thing where he like inspires a little bit more confidence in the peso, inflation starts to go down, so people are a little bit more likely to hold on to these pesos. It gives people the freedom of choice, which gives them the peace of mind that the government might not be as crazy with their spending, because there's kind of like this consequence of, oh, people just switch to dollars if you run this too poorly.
so this goes back to what you were saying before. Like if you have some control on the amount of pesos you can convert to dollars, then that's signaling to the people that something's wrong. Whereas if you open the gates and say, okay, yeah, go ahead, convert them all to dollars, then people are like, oh wait, like maybe it's actually safe to keep my money here.
Yeah, exactly. So like this reaches a point where Argentina doesn't need to kind of like right here you see the gap between this black market rate and the official rate is now like basically zero. So people don't even need to like be scared of being restricted on their sales and purchases of pesos or dollars, like because of the budget surplus and the no longer printing money. The confidence in the peso allowed the central bank to start like accumulating a bunch of dollars. And so now that they have a bunch of dollars, they do what this thing called a currency band, where they're allowing the peso to like only be between these two values. Man, this is confusing. I have to make sure I get this right.
I don't even know. They're basically trying to keep the peso within a predefined margin.
Yeah, and now they have enough money so that if the peso's like crashing, they have enough dollars to kind of support any crazy shock to the economy.
Okay.
Because before they didn't have any dollars because the peso was worth less and less, and everyone kept trying to get rid of it. So then you don't have any dollars to kind of support the strength of the currency. And so what happens? Like how does this all conclude? Do we call this a win for Argentina? Like do we say Milei brought the country back from collapse? What do we say? Well, like I said, initially it's like this what he said, this shock therapy of poverty is going to go way up. Economic activity is going to go way down. People are going to get poorer. People are going to lose their jobs. Everyone's going to get pissed. But like he was basically telling everyone, hold on, like I promise you it'll get better, which is like this crazy, politicians never do this. This is the short-term pain for long-term gain that no politician will ever do. At the end, because people like they stuck through this plan, they continued to be smart with how they spent their money, then suddenly like poverty goes down below where it was when he started. Activity in the economy goes above where it started. Their reserves current like they own more and more dollars. Like the the money that they have to pay in interest for selling bonds goes way down. So now all of a sudden they have so much more flexibility in how they can spend in the future. But like I said, that doesn't mean that people enjoy this short-term pain. Like it's easy to say on graphs like, "Oh, economic activity is up. People are like outlook is better. People are better off." But in all honesty, like most people are still worse off than they were before Milei. Wages are down still 20% from when he started. All these tens of thousands of people who got laid off from government work or pensioners who now have worthless pensions, they're all pissed. It's like it's a drastic solution for a really drastic problem. It hasn't even been 2 years since Milei's become president. Like he was elected in December 23. But like there's been so many attempts at this austerity that couldn't kind of handle this pain, and presidents were forced out before they could follow through with these plans. So there have been 3 general strikes in the year and a half since he's been president. Entire days where people are just general striking. Everybody is on strike. We've kind of yet to see if Argentina can pull off this recovery long term before people revolt and just take him out of office. We're kind of in an interesting little in between phase. At the very least, you can't fault him for doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Usually more difficult than you think it is.
Yeah, and so you kind of hope that in the coming future, like inflation, this last month's reading was 1.5%. Like,
Wow, when was the last time that happened?
very long time ago. Like 1.5% is crazy. Like that's what 18% a year. That's compared to 265. I'll take that any day. Like
Yeah,
it's tough because like you can't be healthier without eating less. But does that make that first run that you go on easier? Not really. I feel like he's put them on in a good path for
I mean, I
recovery.
guess time will tell. Like 2 years is like very short time scale on the compared to the time scale he's trying to go against. So
Yeah.
if things are starting to look up after 2 years and continue on that path for 2 years, maybe then it's okay to yell success. But I don't know. I feel like sometimes a lot of these economic indicators forget like the experience that people live on. And so like will people, be traumatized by the first 2 years where they're like, oh, like this was so bad. I used to be middle class. I could afford this, that, and now I can't. And then it takes time to accumulate wealth. That's an interesting point because the shock therapy, I don't think I can remember a time in history where like someone has tried something so drastic and has at least been able to go through with it for the time being.
You know what? That was a great way to sum it up. I think that is that is where we'll finish.